This is infuriating in so many ways. 154 respondents. They are the ivory tower elites who in no way represent the view of the American people.
No, but it also goes to show you, though, how history can be written and some of it can be built off a lie as well. But no, this list is bogus. Everyone knows that, Obama's not that high. He was a terrible president. But I think on this president, sorry, I think on this is just my thought bubbles. You don't want to know what goes on in here. It's a lot.
Okay, so they're the ivory tower. They're the elites. They're not like regular people like the billionaire former president that we're defending. Again, man, populism means nothing to these people. They worship at the feet of the rich and the powerful. And then they occasionally pretend, well, elites are bad, huh? You gonna clap for me? I said elites are bad. Now let's go back to worshiping the rich and trying to cut their taxes. So she's mad about that. Yes, they're academics, and it's not intended to represent what regular people think. That's not what it is, and that's not the way it's reporting. It's supposed to represent what people who study the presidency think, and that is what it represents, whether you like it or not. Kayleigh McEnany, Rayyvana, what do you think about that?
It really is that comment about the ivory tower elites that they always have to levy those accusations about anyone in academia, which, by the way, does not accurately describe most of the people working in academia. But it's always so ironic coming from people who make millions of dollars a year to sit on their asses on Fox News and talk nonsense for a couple hours a day, then go back to their the liberal city that they live in, that they demonize on the news, that's also being recorded in a liberal city, amongst these ivory tower elites that they just, it's ridiculous. It's so hypocritical, but no one consuming that news cares. They do not care about the hypocrisy. They just want to hear, their pro-Trump message, parroted back at them from someone who looks pretty on television.
100%, yeah. That's why I watch Fox and Friends. Ducey, pretty guy.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, no, it's so like, look, everyone, even if they are rigorous and trying not to be, is affected by bias. You simply are. You're biased by your life experience. You're biased by all sorts of things, where you currently live, all of that. But they do literally nothing, and obviously they have a financial incentive not to get past their biases. Again, he told people to use bleach and lights to kill COVID. He said we should do less testing, and more than 1 million people died of COVID in just a couple of years. And then he once again lost the election, the popular vote twice, the Electoral College once, and he led a mob to sack the Capitol. Who would you put after that? By the way, if I was the descendant of like Hoover or something, and you put me after the coup guy, I'd be pretty mad. But you'll notice that in those clips, they are not making a case for Trump. They're not describing his long record of accomplishments. They're just saying, obviously he's the best and Biden is the worst. But I'll remind you of a few of the things that he did as president. He pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord, potentially helping to doom future generations to climate apocalypse. He ripped up the Iran nuclear deal, which obviously sets Iran back on a path to developing nuclear weapons. He said that there were good people on both sides in Charlottesville. When they were marching and saying the Jews will not replace us, he thought some of them not so bad. He separated at least 5,500 migrant families and placed children in cages. Many of those families were never reunited, which is bad for him, also bad for Biden. You'd think maybe he could fix some of that. There were over 400,000 reported fatalities from COVID-19 while he was president, but obviously a lot of the anti-mask, anti-social distancing, anti-vaccine positions had been locked in by the time he was no longer president. The US national debt was at the highest level since World War II, and as a result of that and all of those things, and the wanting to nuke a hurricane and the drawing a new path for a hurricane and putting absolute monsters on the Supreme Court and the many other things he did, he left the presidency with a 29% approval rating. Now, to be clear, for Fox and Friends, Kayleigh McEnany, that is not a 29% approval rating amongst presidential historians. That is what regular people thought about him. So yes, there's a lot of people who weren't big fans of his presidency because it was an utter failure. Any other thoughts before we move on?
I'll just say I think it's important that you highlighted his failures and the fact that they didn't make the case for Trump, because it just shows how much they know that they don't have to. because they're preaching to an audience that already thinks Trump number one. They're choking on his boots. They're not even licking them at this point. And they know that.